President Obama's Middle East tour has resulted in mixed feelings both in Israel and Palestine, with no tangible results despite his calls for peace. Palestinians who greeted the US leader with protests were disappointed by his show of unwavering allegiance to Israel and lack of pressure over the issue of settlements. Obama was more restrained on the problem than before, saying that stopping settlement construction should not be a precondition for peace talks at a meeting with the Palestinian leader. As for Israel, during his 2 days there, Obama seemingly thawed frosty relations with the country's prime minister, but signs of disagreement on issues like Iran were still abundant.
Right to self-determination.
Well, let's get more reaction now, shall we, to Obama's visit. We can go live to Ramallah to talk to Abir Kopti, a Palestinian political and social activist. Thank you very much for being with us today here on RT. Firstly, what is the feeling in Palestine following Barack Obama's visit?
Thank you. Well, again, I think Obama proved to be a very good speaker. He gave a great speech yesterday. But again, Palestinians do not expect words, they expect actions. And in terms of action, Obama has been the most pro-Israeli president, US president in history. The American administration kept supporting Israel militarily, diplomatically, economically. And that's exactly what Palestinians question. How can a president who wants to promise peace take one side and stand on the side of the oppressor and keeps granting full support, unconditional support to Israel, while ignoring the Palestinian plight? He indeed mentioned some of the injustices Palestinians face, but at the same time, he is the one who is totally complicit and responsible in creating those injustices and in maintaining those injustices.
Well, Obama reiterated, didn't he, his commitment to the two-state solution. But do you think there will be any real movement on this issue following his visit?
Well, if President Obama came to promise us, and that's actually what we all expected, if he came to promise us another 20 years of negotiation, endless affair of negotiation, this is, of course, something that Palestinians will reject. And they rejected, and many of them took to the streets to say no to Obama's administration policy towards the Middle East, and to say no to another round of negotiation. 20 years of negotiation have given nothing to the Palestinian, have changed totally the reality on the ground. The number of settlers in the West Bank tripled in those 20 years. The continuous repression of the Palestinian people, land grab, confiscation, house demolition, displacement of people continued. And actually, I invite anyone to come and see reality on the ground. The two-state solution that Obama is applauding all the time is dead, is declared dead. There is no way to reach a two-state solution. Israel has worked intensively to create facts on the ground, going on with impunity. All its violations were faced with silence around the world, especially from the American administration. Not only silence, but also backing the Israeli continuous violation of international law. And the whole reality on the ground has created Palestinians who live here and see the reality on the ground will not buy Obama's word about peace and justice in the Middle East.
Well, we can certainly understand the feeling, the Palestinian feeling from what you're saying there. But to be fair to Obama, he did condemn, didn't he, Israeli settlement expansion, although he did call it counterproductive. But his position did seem more restrained, didn't it, than before? For example, he didn't call for construction to freeze. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, well, I think first when he talked about the settlements, he only used the word that they are not constructive. I think it's beyond. They are against international law, and I think refraining from this because he understands that Israel is not willing to freeze settlements. It did not and never freeze settlements, and I think Obama is still going on with the same perspective that Israel needs to be bribed and flattered protected and given more privileges and support in order to reach peace, rather than placing pressure on Israel and placing sanctions on Israel to make Israel adhere to the international law. That's the main problem we have with the American administration and with many international community leaders who think that if they give more privileges to Israel, and they have tried this actually method for years and decades, and it did not work. What we say as Palestinians is there is a serious need for taking concrete actions, for placing sanctions on Israel, for placing important and concrete and serious pressure on Israel, and not keep treating Israel as a normal country and even abnormal country that deserve continuous privileges from different governments around the world. There is a need for sanctions and boycott and, isolating the regime of apartheid and occupation.
Okay, all right, Abir Kopty, thank you very much. I'm afraid I have to stop you there. We have run out of time. I do apologise, but thank you very much for giving us your thoughts here on RT. That was Abir Kopty, a Palestinian political activist, live from Ramallah.